So there's more updates about the Brooklyn shooter. His name is Frank James. So his name is Frank James. He has made a YouTube account. He has been uploading videos about his discontent with the system, in particular politics. He said some words about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and that they've pushed him to being the shooter and pushed him to being violent. Not necessarily to being the shooter, but to being violent. And they're still looking out to find him. They still don't know where he's at. The fact that they even knew him as the alleged perp was because of cell phone cameras from not the police, not the subway cameras, not anything that has to do with the institution that we pay taxes to. No, no, no. It was the proletarian. It was the working class. It was the people who were affected. Now, this is not for me to make a cause in supporting what's the name? Frank James? Because I am not for any type of violence. I'm not okay with it. I'm against the Ukraine-Russia conflict, though I have a different take than mainstream media. However, I'm not for that. Just like I'm not okay with him like busting into a subway station inside the train cart as it's moving, throw in smoke bombs, and then start blasting people. 10 people got hit, 10 people got injured. No one died, thankfully. But like still, that was atrocious. That was uncalled for. But it shows you the system that we live in. We got police officers who weren't doing their job. They didn't help the people. They didn't call 911. They didn't snatch up Frank James right then and there. It was the people who were going to work because it was 8 o'clock in the morning. It was rush hour. It was them folks who helped one another. It was them folks who called the ambulance. It was them folks who captured Frank James on camera and was like, look, this might be the guy. It was the proletarian. It had nothing to do with the police. Yet Eric Adams is demanding more money for the police. And the police in New York already are operating on several billion, with the B, billions of dollars a year. Obviously, it's not working. And even the proletariat class, the everyday New York who takes the subway, was actually posting pictures on Twitter like, this is where our federal money goes to. This is where our tax dollars go to. This is what the cops do on the platform. Harass people for jumping the toll fares, whether you're for it or against it. To me, it's not that big of a deal, but that's what they're doing. They're arresting people who are not paying the fare and people who are homeless, who are sleeping on the train benches or who seem mentally frazzled. But they're not catching any suspects. They're not doing any preventative causes. They're not checking people. They're not surveillancing anything. And matter of fact, in the subway station, the goddamn cameras don't work. And I'm like, so y'all just not doing your job. So you just getting money just to be useless. You just getting money just to fill in a space, just fill in a role, but you're not doing anything. And this is why there are certain people who call for defund the police, because you're giving big banks, big billions, big dollars to motherfuckers who don't do shit, but harass people and kill people occasionally to keep things interesting, to keep you on your toes, just blast on people. But that's not fixing up the communities. That's not creating affordable homes. That's not improving the education, building public green spaces. That's not fixing the infrastructure, things that actually would benefit society. And even those who are on the lower end, those who are affected by this current system, those who are low income, those who are mentally frazzled, or whatever the case may be, y'all are not doing anything to prevent that cycle. But you would just keep throwing money at a useless, failing plan that is the police state. So now that I upgraded you with that type of information, I want to talk about another particular topic. I want to talk about retirement. And I want to talk about retirement from a millennial point of view. Many millennials will not be able to retire. And I know as millennials, y'all, or we are at young, late 20s, early 30s, at old, 40s. So this generation, especially the younger end, which I am a part of, we're not going to be able to retire Because you're seeing now those who are of retirement ages cannot retire. Not because they're not 65, but because they don't have the 401k. They don't have the Social Security safety net to fall back on. They don't have these preliminary measures to keep them above water when their bodies are too fragile or too old or too worn out. Take care of themselves. There will not be a golden years for our generation, and it barely exists for the boomer generation, especially those who are low income. The fastest growing population of homeless people are the elderly, and that shit breaks my fucking heart. It's the elderly. Imagine little ass grannies having to bag groceries just to get something to supplement the Social Security because it's not enough. And the original idea behind Social Security, on top of the fact that we were on the verge of revolution, the communists, the socialists got in union with the unions and started pressuring the politicians. So it was one of those situations like, if you don't do what the working class wants you to do, we'll just fuck shit up. So they just threw in with the New Deal, Social Security, and other social safety nets, because literally America could have experienced its own world war if the proletarian classes was really about to bring that heat. So Social Security was originally established under the guise of retirement is a three-legged stool. What does that mean? It's bullshit, but it's one of those like respectability politics, one of those like trickle down economics. It's bullshit, but it sounds good. And that's the same thing with the three-legged stool. It's bullshit, but it sounds good. And those who were alive during the New Deal, they accepted it. Under the guise of the three-legged stool, one leg of the stool was Social Security. So after you retire, after 30, 40, 50 years of consistent work, you would have paid into Social Security. So the tax deductions that come out of your paycheck goes into Social Security. So every time you get a paycheck, it's on paper, it's not underneath the table. It is accounted onto your own savings from the government. So when you become of a retirement age, then you can claim Social Security benefits, and over the time of your retirement, you'll get a consistent check from the federal, right? So that's one part of the leg. The other part of the leg is supposed to be retirement from your job. So this used to be a pension. This could have been a 401k or 403. And then the other part of the leg would be your own personal savings. So from your savings account, from whatever banking institution that you do banking. So that's the original idea behind the three-legged stool. It's bullshit because even when the New Deal was being curated, they understood that Social Security was eventually going to go bankrupt. And it is estimated in 2033, Social Security will indeed be bankrupt. So in 10 years, it's 2022 now, 10 years, there will be no more Social Security. So the seniors who's living it up now, what are they going to do in 10 years, especially since we know that life expectancy has grown a lot more? It's a lot more time for seniors to enjoy their golden years now than it was 40 years ago, with medication, with health, with a better quality of life, with medical access. People are living a lot longer. Originally, that was not a part of the plan. The idea was seniors were going to like die around their like 70s, as well as when it came to Social Security, the idea behind it, every generation is paying for the generation before them. So essentially, millennials were paying into with Social Security for their own retirement, but also they were paying in taxes. What comes out of your paycheck, that money is going to the generation before you. So that would more likely be the boomers than the Gen Xers, because the Gen Xers are kind of young. They're like youngish. They're kind of like 50s, maybe early 60s, but for the most part, they're like mid 40s, 50s. So they're not of retirement age. So most likely we would be paying for the boomers, right? And it's one of those type of situations. You pay for this previous generation. When it's your time around, the generation behind you will be paying for you. But there's a lot more boomers than there are Gen Xers, than there are millennials, than there are Gen Zers. And that's by design. With the World War I, World War II, people coming back, people, getting their Love Jones on, people getting their back scratched, throwing it back. Contraceptives wasn't a big thing, especially around religious connotations. Like the Catholic Church still to this day will try to condemn women for like owning their bodies and deciding when they want to have kids and whatnot. But back then it was very, very lowbrow and even risque to be on birth control. So like there was a whole lot of loving going on after the war, a lot of victory pussy going around. So there was an increase in the population. But since then, the population has dropped. There's not as many other generations that can be comparable in mass to the boomers. The boomers are the biggest part of the American population. So there's more boomers who are retiring and are depending on the Social Security benefit of that three-legged stool. And as I mentioned, the previous generation paying for their retirement now. If there's more boomers, then there are Gen Xers, then there are Gen Zers, then there are millennials. And you have to also factor in the Great Resignation. You have to factor in there's a lot of people who work underneath the table or don't have taxes pulled out of their pay, or are not just working. They're not working for whatever reason. So counting all of those extra factors, a lot of boomers who thought that they were going to be cruising in their golden years are finding out that it's a little bumpy. And for others, they ain't cruising, they stuck. And that's current reality. What do you think it would look like for millennials if we manage to get into our golden years? Because again, we're still dealing with climate change. The IPCC report, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. This is a panel from all governments, from all scientists from across the globe coming up with their reports on climate change and what needs to be done and what is to be predicted. So everything is on high alert. And you think that somehow, some way, we're just gonna hope and dream and pray to white Jesus, black Jesus, and things are just gonna get better? They're not. And we haven't even discussed about medical debt. Our bodies, each and every day that we stay alive, we're getting older. Our bodies are depreciating. I can tell you, as a person who's less than a month away from being 30, it hits different. Bumps hits different. Aches hits different. It just hit different. I'm not down and out, but it hits different. Recovery and bounce back, it hits different. So imagine you doing hard labor. You are putting your body to the test underneath this capitalist system, working until you drop. Hustle culture, get it from the mud. You don't think that's going to exacerbate your body? And then on top of that, you don't think that's going to play into your productivity and the ability to make those money, make those big banks, make those big cashes, big checks, to be able to save? Because let's be honest, those that are making good money are either in particular fields, like let's say the medical field, but it would be more like on the higher end. So like a researcher or a doctor or a scientist, or on that end, right? Or a lawyer, and this would be from a prestigious firm, not like a public defender, or some type of techie thing. So you are well versed in all these programmings and languages that no one cares about or knows how to figure out. So for the most part, if it's not those particular fields, and of course the capitalist class, the owner class who inherit their wealth through the generations, you're pretty much working these jobs that put your body to the test. And those jobs typically don't pay, and they definitely don't pay a livable wage. And benefits are rare, scarce, or they try to gyp you on the benefits. They have all types of parameters. They have all types of fine prints. And like I said, as you get older, your body depreciates. So you need more care and you need more accessibilities. This is why a lot of people take medications for whatever reason. It's not necessarily a mental health thing, as opposed to heart issues, as opposed to dietitian issues, as opposed to whatever disease, disorder, ache, whatever. You don't think that that's going to play a part in your ability to quote unquote work and the type of work you get? And in this capitalist system, your work is tied into your worth, that's tied into your self-esteem. So if you are deemed a quote unquote low skill worker like Eric Adams, or you are deemed not beneficial to the capitalist system because you can't produce enough for them, then what does that mean for your retirement? What does that mean for your savings? What does that mean for your golden years? That means that you won't be able to have one. And you notice that I even talk about the important immediate factors that are harming the everyday person. I didn't talk about gas. I didn't talk about inflation. I didn't talk about the impending recession that will be coming by the end of the year, according to Bank of America and other economic experts and financial analysis. How do you think that's going to play into savings? It has been recorded that most Americans don't have extra savings for a $400 emergency expense. So if you don't have $400 just to throw at something, in the meantime, in between time, in the now, how are you going to have this thousands of dollars, $250,000, $500,000 saved up for your nest egg? What would a nest egg look like for a millennial? And I ain't even talking about the generation after us. That's Gen Z. They on a whole different way. They on a whole different vibe. So what's going to happen to us when it is our turn to enjoy our quote unquote golden years? If Earth still exists now, if we're not literally living through purgatory, because we got fires and we got floods. And we haven't even talked about shit like earthquakes, because that's a thing. Tsunamis, that's a thing. Sinkholes, that's a thing. And it's only going to get worse with climate change. So these are the days of our lives. And this is why, knowing what I know, especially when it comes to politics, it comes to climate and things of that nature, this is why I can't get caught up in celebrity bullshit. This is why I can't make a grandstand in a respectability politics video essay. I couldn't do no die on this hill and be a part of the culture war, because at the end of the day, that's the equivalent to me as life is hard, so I'm going to shoot up some heroin. That's the equivalent to me, because both of them waste time. It withers your productivity and it doesn't change shit. Will Smith is not going to slap the capitalist class back into equity with the proletarian class. He's not willing to do that. Neither is Jada, neither is Chris, neither is any of these social construct critiquers. It's going to be up to us to fix what we see and what we're living through. And because I understand life is so hard and it's so burdensome, I'm going to do the work of shuffling and organizing and putting certain conversations and talking points out into the ethers, out into my little corner of YouTube. Because these are the things that you need to be aware about. Not who's fucking who got the latest award, who ain't friends with this, that, and the third. Because at the end of the day, what the fuck does that got to do with the price of fucking gas that you got to pump into your car? What the fuck does that got to do with the groceries that you got to buy because your belly is hurting? What in the Fendi fuck does any of that got to do with the lack of savings and the amounting debt that you got on your fucking accounts? Absolutely nothing. So y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop your comments down below. Do y'all even have a retirement plan? Like, legitimate. If you don't, I ain't throwing no shade. I got a little something. And when I say a little something, I really mean a little like Bow Wow. Lil something. Okay. definitely not enough for me to brag on. Definitely not something I can comfortably sit on. Definitely not no nest egg. Okay? It ain't even an Easter egg. Ain't even a chocolate egg. Okay? I don't know what it is, but it ain't that. So if you want to talk about ways that has helped grow your savings, please talk about things that are legitimate and things that are practical. Because I don't want to tell nobody, oh yeah, invest in some crypto, do this, do that, because I still don't get crypto. And truth be told, if we literally wake up in this purgatory, you think motherfuckers are going to be asking, oh, how do I get into my crypto account? You think motherfuckers are going to be asking about crypto this and crypto that? People are going to say cash on demand, okay? You think if we suddenly find ourselves in the middle of a fucking forest fire gobbling down motherfucking street curbs and sidewalks and whole city blocks, you think we're going to have time for you to hop into your Bitcoin account and this, that, cash on demand, bitch? Like, you think you're going to have access to the internet? You think you're going to have access to cash on demand, bitch? Like, so like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I just don't see that really being a thing. But if you have any practical advice, anything that helped you with savings or things that you've invested in that has a track record or anything like that, please drop it down in the comments, share your opinions. But like, literally, retirement ain't for us. At least us, the working class. The seniors now are struggling. A lot of them are struggling. Not all seniors retire to Florida and sit in Palm Beach drinking their mojitos. There's a lot of seniors out in these streets. There's a lot of seniors who are struggling. There's a lot of seniors who got to work until they die because they just ain't got it. And again, this is capitalism. You, the employee, you don't set no prices. You don't go into no meetings and say, this is my worth. This is what I want per hour. This is the salary that I want. These are the benefits that I deserve. It's the capitalist class that sets the prices. It's the capitalist class that sets the benefits. And even if your labor is worth 3 times than what they're offering, if you're not the one cutting the check, you take that low blow, because at the end of the day, them bills are still due on the 1st. And that's real shit. So I don't want this video to go too long. Oh, like, comment, share, subscribe. Leave your opinions down below, and I shall see you in the next video. Peace.